Our World League teams, they were cheering when someone scored, no matter who it was. They were like, yay, something happened. We're like, what the fuck? That was the other team. And then the kickers and punters, they loved it because they like equated it with soccer. So it was like a weird world that I was in. I was like, wait, we're cooler than the quarterback over here? This is awesome.
Or they cheer when it's a great kickoff. It's like, guys, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, just random times during the game and just be like, get excited. So maybe we're doing this wrong.
We had this guy was a handball player of the year in Sweden. And so he's 6'4", big old tight end guy, and was just an incredible athlete, but didn't always understand everything about football. This dude runs like a deer, can jump, but then when he catches the ball, he's carrying it upside down. The points are facing north and south and not east and west. Like, I saw some awkward things. I think some of the craziest things I saw were like the soccer tackles. They'd get a guy in the open field, and DB just come and slide into the guy and like almost break his legs. Holy cow.
The funny thing with the World League that tripped me out was we had the old school kicker, German guy, Ralph Kleiman. He rips a cigarette. Just starts smoking up. I was like looking over, watching him smoke a cigarette in the middle of halftime.
I had a linebacker I played with. He's from Italy, and he decided he needed an espresso. And so he went into the bar and he's in full pads. You just never know what you're going to see. It's crazy.
Played a hell of a second half, too.
Welcome to the Gallery and Hurley Unfiltered podcast, Iowa Football Rewind.
Subscribe now on YouTube or your favorite podcast player to get a behind-the-scenes look that you won't find anywhere else.
Tonight, we're excited to have Mike Dailey, former linebacker for the University of Iowa football team. Mike, welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys
Thanks,
having me.
Mike.
Thank you.
Glad to have you on. My first question is I'm thinking about the Big Ten was like back in the 1990s. And what made you say, with the running backs they had, the offenses they had, what made you say, that's where I want to stick my head into?
I grew up in Iowa. I'm from small town Iowa. And it was always one of those things everybody wanted to go to the University of Iowa, wanted to play for Coach Fry. That's number one. The Big Ten was a draw too, but like you said, talk about playing against the best of the best. If you want to get into a power league, find out if you can play football or not. And if you're willing to hit people, you're going to find that out real quick. And I think that was a draw coming to the University of Iowa. I would say coming there right away, I may not have been exactly ready, but we all grew and learned over time. But it was a good experience, and I learned a lot and grew up a lot during my time at Iowa.
I don't think anyone shows up ready at that point, or at least very few guys I knew of showed up ready or close to ready. Take us back to high school and walk us through that, where you got started in football and other sports as well.
Yeah, right now I'm in education, so we're around what kids are doing athletically a lot. And it's just crazy thinking about what we did back in the 80s compared to what they're doing now in the 2020s. I didn't even play tackle football until eighth grade. Now we're starting tackle football leagues around third grade. But in Fairfield, Iowa, we started playing tackle football in eighth grade as a junior high team. And then you jump in, you play 2 years of junior high, and then you jump right into that high school. It was crazy. That's where I first caught the fever. I was always interested in football. You grow up, I was watching the Chicago Bears, watching the Dallas Cowboys, and then the Iowa Hawkeyes. So that's where I thought my path was going to take me as I grew up. And then when I finally got a chance to play, I found out football was a lot more fun than I even thought it would be to begin with.
And Fairfield's a relatively small town, right?
Yeah, and right around 10,000. It's in the southeast Iowa. Actually, I'm from, if you want to get really small, I'm from Libertyville and Batavia. They're about 300 apiece. I grew up on a farm between Libertyville and Batavia, and then went to the big town of Fairfield for high school.
So your big town's not 600 like mine is then.
A little bit bigger than that.
Yeah, we went to high school, yeah. And all these things are like with church in too, right? There's always that math of how many people are in town and if church is in session or not. So always
Right.
up or down by a couple hundred. Nice. So did you wrestle as well?
No, I did a little bit of that when I was younger. As I got older, I played a little bit of basketball. I guess I should say I was on the basketball team. I wasn't really a basketball player, but I wrestled some. And then when I got to that freshman year, they started talking to me about cutting weight. And I'm not interested in that. I'm still not interested in that. I don't want to watch what I eat and how much I eat. So I kind of stepped away from the wrestling thing. And like I said, I wouldn't call myself a basketball player. I was a guy on the basketball team.
Nice. I think we could cast you as a wrestler. You have a wrestling look like you'd be a wrestler. Talk to us about.
That's a compliment.
Yeah, no, definitely. Look like a tough badass for sure. Look like you'd be right at home with Brand Brothers and all those guys down at Iowa.
Those guys are crazy. When John Ostendorp was on the football team, when we were around, and what those guys put themselves through is crazy.
I used to hear stories that they would get in fights and they would start throwing weights at each other. And I was like, that's a little more intense than I would be willing, I think, to do. But impressive. Yeah, those guys were, that was crazy to watch. Yeah, we got into that as kids. Watch those matches where they'd shove guys out of bounds, run back to the center. And then after they were done, take 2 or 3 laps up and down the stadium steps, sometimes carrying a guy on their backs. And just, yeah, it was intense. Really crazy.
That have to be the ultimate insult, where you go out there and wrestle a guy and you think you give him a pretty good battle and he beats you, but then you didn't make him tired enough, so he's out there running stadium steps. No, that's a little crazy.
Yeah, that would definitely mess with your mind a bit. Let's jump into your recruiting. Talk about that and where that kind of got started and how you got connected and what schools you were looking at.
Yeah, so coming out of high school, I wasn't a big guy, I wasn't a fast guy. Academically, I did okay. So I wasn't a huge risk factor. Recruiting wise, the game's changed so much when you're talking about that NIL money and everything else. But back in the day, I had some schools reaching out by phone. You'd get the snail mail, the letter in the mailbox, which is cool. It was fun to come home from basketball games and the coach would be calling me. I talked to University of Iowa a lot, talked to Iowa State, Stanford at the time. I talked to them some, and then Minnesota and some other schools just around. But those are the ones I heard more consistently from. When Coach Fry and Coach Brazier invited us up, and I went to that weekend up there and had the chance to go through the recruiting process, it was done. It was over. I knew where I wanted to be and what I was going to do. That was something I thought about when I was little, and when you get there, it was better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, that's great. Did you take any other visits or you just went to Iowa and that probably quit?
I went to Iowa and I just canceled. I had some that were scheduled, and I just called others and said, I'm good. I've made a decision. I know where I want to go.
And where do you think Stanford came in the mix at?
Yeah, that was interesting. At that time, I think one of the pucks was playing for Stanford from the Des Moines area, and he'd gone to Stanford. And that was when Coach Elway was leaving, and I think Coach Green became the new head coach. So there's a rollover of coaching. I think the biggest thing was just my academics. Academically, I did okay.
I wonder if Coach Green, because he was former Iowa guy, I wonder if he had his eyes on Iowa because he knew there might be some talent or some guys out there. That's interesting. I didn't realize he was out there around that time.
Yeah, I think I may have talked to him on the phone once, but that was right around when I had made a decision. But like I said, I think it was a puck that was from Iowa that had gone out there, and one of the brothers had played at Iowa too.
Gotcha. Let's fast forward into your first year. Talk through that when you showed up, how that was for you. Walk through that if you would for us.
You're talking about coming from small town and everything. It was definitely different going from Fairfield or Batavia, Iowa, and then going up to Iowa City and being around guys that from all over the country. Definitely an eye opener in an awesome way. Just learned a lot of things from a lot of different people. I would say socially, I took a step back and just watched everything that went on and tried to learn from people because it was different from what I was used to. But then after a while, you get comfortable and you can start mixing in with people. But it was great. We didn't report in the summer. We had summer baseball. We didn't come in until right around the end of July, beginning of August time. And that's when they brought freshmen in first. And when it was just freshmen, you feel pretty good. It was just a bunch of us young guys running around. We have the coach's attention. And then we were in there 3 or 4 days, and then they brought in the older guys. And the pace of practice changed, and my eyes got opened up about what contact was and the scheme. And it was great. It was overwhelming for sure for the first probably year or two. But then you just kind of adjust to it and you're ready to go.
And who were the role models or who were the guys that were in the linebacker room at that point that were shepherding you through this journey?
Yeah. When I came in, Brad Quast would have been a senior. And then John Derby was on the team. John Derby was a great guy. I roomed with him on the road a lot, like 3 or 4 years. Melvin Foster would have been around, and he was an awesome guy to be around. Kevin Quast, Brad's brother, was a year older than I was. Teddy Joe Faley was in that group. Ewok was there from Urbandale. He was around at that time. So there's just some really cool guys that came in at that time. It took us freshmen under the wing. Sometimes some of the older guys can look at you going, what? I don't need to spend my time with this guy. I'm going to be out of here in a year. I don't have to worry about it. But these guys really kind of took us under their wing and showed us the ropes a little bit.
You were one of those guys for me. So I appreciate that part of it. That was really an eye-opening thing for me to come and be a freshman. I think you were really a steady force at that point. Probably a little scared that the 2 of us freshmen were going to be out kicking and punting for you guys, but hopefully it held your breath enough to get through that. So yeah, that was awesome. And I really wanted to thank you for that. So you look back at some of those moments and you see these like steadying forces, and that was really great to have you as one of those. So I appreciate it.
No, I appreciate you saying that. One of the things people do ask me, what would you do different? And it's nice to hear that because one of the things I think is I could always have been a better teammate. I think sometimes being that jerk or the way you carry yourself on the football field, sometimes you need to leave it there. And I don't know if I always did. So it's nice to hear I didn't always make everybody mad.
Definitely not.
Who else came in your year? This was 1990.
It'd have been 89. Would have
89.
been the fall of 89. There was Jesse came in with me. I can't think of his last name right now, but when he came, he had an ACL issue. And so he didn't stay around. That year, Jesse had came in and then Matt Hilliard from Cedar Falls. Hilliard and I and Jesse came in all the same year. And then Jesse, just because of injury wise, wasn't able to be around for an extended amount of time. But Hilliard was around for a while. Hilliard was a good guy.
And Hilliard went to school with Trev Alberts in high school, right?
He
That's the
did. They
connection?
all went yep. So they were the same age, went to the same high school.
That would have been a buzzsaw to run into as a high school team. Holy shit.
And then they didn't go to Cedar Falls. They went to
And you high?
the lab school or whatever it was.
I think that
can't
was
think.
at NU High.
Yeah, that's right. You got it. That's what Nick said. But yeah, that was crazy. That had to be awesome. I don't know what they were 2A or whatever they were, but you got two studs running around out there.
Yeah, that would have been not fair. I couldn't imagine.
It'd been like playing Appleton Parkersburg.
Yeah, true. Yeah, exactly. 3 or 4 pros just run around. Yeah. We talked about that with Jarrett. That's crazy, like how much talent they had on those teams. It's nuts.
Yeah. It's really cool though in Iowa.
Yeah, it gets a bad rap sometimes that there's not talent, right? There's not the depth of talent other places, but there's some really good guys that come out and have been super successful.
For sure. We're hoping Southeast Polk's got a couple guys. And that's where I'm at right now, Southeast Polk, but we've got Caden Proctor, which I know Hawkeye fans may not be too excited about that name, but KP's down in Alabama. And then Xavier Wampa, who's just, I think he was Defensive Player of the Week in the Big Ten this week. Both of those guys are Southeast Polk guys. So it's nice to see the Iowa guys still coming up and doing well.
And as far as talent wise, I mean, from like kids these days with the different, I guess the different workout techniques and the nutrition, all these different things, have you noticed that kind of really progress over the years, or how's that been?
For sure. It's just crazy to think of. You guys thinking about would you in high school, would you eat pregame? In Fairfield, we went to Hardee's. I had a bacon cheeseburger and some fries and a big Coke. That's what I had for pregame. And then couldn't figure out why I was cramping by the second quarter. But these kids now, it's nuts. They start watching what they do, how they eat, the working out process, what you eat before, what you eat after. Even at the high school level, what our kids know, the knowledge they have when it comes to nutrition, working out. I wasn't in that ballpark. The things that I did, if I did it right, it was on accident. It wasn't because of anything I knew.
Yeah, I think I went to state track and I ate a Big Mac right before I ran a 400 open. Of course, threw it up all over the place too. But yeah, that was because we just didn't think of those things back then. I didn't have that kind of knowledge of that part of it.
No idea. And even back, those are some of the things that Coach Fry did right back in the days with our meals. But still, I think some of our practices have changed in how they feed guys. But the steak and pasta the night before, the big breakfast, and the 10 o'clock shake, you had to go get shake check in and all that stuff. I don't know if that'd fly anymore. I don't know.
Steak, or
Yeah.
was it shake and chocolate bar?
Yes.
10 p.m. Yeah.
Oh yeah, shitload of sugar at 10 p.m.
I don't know why I can't sleep before a game. Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, exactly. Oh God, it's funny to think about. I didn't even think about that part. I was thinking back to the Tulsa game when we ate a steak like right before the game. I was just like, I wasn't even playing that much. I was like, oh my God, I can barely move right now. That's not a great idea for sure.
Was that the game? Would you have been a freshman when we just 26-24? We beat them. Was that right?
That would have been the game that we were at Tulsa.
Freshman.
I think we came
Oh,
in
okay.
late. Yeah. So
Gotcha.
This is
the
our
freshman
senior
game would have
year.
been like our first game. Yeah, I think.
Gotcha.
Or senior year, was it?
96. Yeah. And we went down there and got beat. We
Oh,
flew in
God,
the day
okay.
of the game, and yeah, that didn't go over very well. And everyone seemed sluggish. And they ended up beating Oklahoma, but then they had a terrible year. So they beat Iowa and Oklahoma and did okay in their conference. It was a real weird season they had, but they were not very happy. We flew in the same day on a Saturday to play them in the afternoon.
You had asked earlier about what it was like transitioning. I redshirted my first year, and I was thinking about this before we got on. And I hadn't thought about this game forever, but we played Oregon. Before Oregon was Oregon. They were still okay, but they were still the Ducks. But it's not like what you think of Oregon today. But they came in here to Kinnick, and I was redshirt. I was told I was going to redshirt, so I didn't take my risks. I don't know if I even had, I wasn't ready to play. I put shorts on, pulled my game pants on. I don't even know if I had them tied. I was just kind of hanging out, enjoying the crowd, and we didn't play so well. And we went in at halftime, and Coach Fry was upset, but Coach Brazier kind of lost his mind too. And he goes, linebackers, if you don't start playing right, hell, I may stick Mike Dailey in the game. And I was naive enough to think, going, he may stick me in the game. I started freaking out. I went back to my locker. I got to make sure I find my jock strap. I got to get ready for this thing. Looking back at that, you're like, there's no way he'd have stuck me in the game. But it was good. I could be at least a butt of his jokes, trying to threaten the other guys to play better. But that game didn't end well for us. I think it's 40-0 by the time it was over.
It looks like it was 24 zip at half and
Over.
lost 44-6. It looks like a
Sounds
late
about-
score to get anything on the board.
So that was my first taste of sideline football at the University of Iowa.
Yikes. Did you think you could play right away, or did you expect that you would be redshirted, or did you change your mind as you got all the other guys showed up and saw where you were at development wise, or how did you feel going into camp that first year?
I didn't know what to think when I first showed up, but I would say when the older guys showed up, I knew redshirt was where it was going to be for me. Those hawk hitters on Fridays, those were always fun. And when we started kind of getting in the groove, we started hitting each other. I'm like, okay, I can do this. This is going to be okay. But that took a while. But I would say within minutes of the older guys showing up at camp going, yeah, I'll keep learning from these guys.
Talk about your mindset at that point. When you were there, you'd seen the talent and what you were dealing with. Talk about figuring out how to get on the field. Talk about how you did that or how you thought about that part.
I wanted to play and I wanted to be a part of the team one way or the other. And how could I help them out? Coach Longo, who was in the weight room, worked with our long snappers a little bit, and Ray Moran. And I just wanted to do anything. I was working at linebacker, was working on doing some long snapping, just figuring out how I could help the team, but also be a part of it. I want to get on the field any way I could. My freshman year, I wish I wouldn't have been quite as timid as I was and maybe sat back as much as I did. But it is what it is. I was learning, and it was a big change for me. But I'd say the next year, my redshirt freshman year, what I did as a freshman paid off because I was able to travel. I put myself in a position where they were going to take me because I could do a couple different things for the team. I could do special teams. I could play linebacker if they needed. I could snap. If everything else blew up, I could do that for them. So I was the wrench that could do a few things for us and put myself in that position. That was the hope. That's what I wanted to do. Unfortunately, I also benefited from some people getting banged up. I hated to see Kevin Quash get hurt. He was a guy that wasn't able to keep playing, which was sad. But unfortunately, I benefited from that because that was just one guy that had to step away, and I slid up and was able to take a spot that he held.
And was it a big transition balancing the schoolwork and then the load of traveling for these games and all that stuff? Or was that relatively easy for you?
It was relatively easy. I'd say my first spring there, I had knee surgery and missed some class. And then at that time, I was taking a calculus class, and that made it a little tough. And then I finished calculus and pulled the plug on that. I was done with that. But that made it a little tough. But that was only just because I missed some time because of injury, but was able to come back from that and change my major. I think I was pre-med at one point. Changed my major a few times, but it did. It took discipline. You had to lock it in and know what to do and when to do it. And I think I was able to do that pretty much my freshman year. Got a good start. They always tell you it's hard to dig yourself out of a hole. Start out high and keep cruising. So I think I was able to do that.
I think a few of us had to learn that lesson the hard way.
I don't know. You did all right academically. Both of you guys did, didn't you?
Let's not go back to the records.
I was trying to do a lot of academics and I struggled. Even though I went to a big high school, I thought I was pretty ready. But yeah, those first couple of classes, they're just weeding out people. And then you change your majors a couple of times. So it's like, I don't know if I'm really fit for this. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to study. So I feel like I did have to build it back up over the years to catch up. But it wasn't for a lack of effort, I think, on my part, where I just think it was just, yeah, challenging.
High school is relatively easy for me. I got like a 3.5 in high school, and I don't think I tried that hard. So I probably didn't learn the basics of what I needed to do. And I think I was so focused at that point on the football aspect that I'm like, I don't really know what I want to do. Second week I'm in school, they're like, you need to choose your major. And I did one of these things and pointed at something, I think, because I was like, I don't have an idea. Got much later in my career, there's a few things that interested me, but they're like, you're not going to graduate on time. I promised my mom I'd graduate. And then, yeah, I don't think I was intellectually curious at that point. Didn't really dive into it. Thought I could always come back if I needed to. I knew it was important, but I just was like, maybe I shouldn't have the skills to balance all of it. I think it was different. Just getting thrown in there that young. I was just like trying to survive and not end up in the newspaper in a bad way, personally and professionally. So yeah, I was like trying to keep above water. So I think the school part was like, oh shit, yeah, that's another thing to juggle.
I think
the skills.
One of the benefits I had was growing up on the farm. There was always surprises. You'd come home and we had to sort cattle, or we had to go help dad in the field, or not had to. We got the opportunity to go help my dad in the field. So there's always things that when you had a moment, you took the time and you took care of the business you're supposed to do in school. And so I kind of learned that growing up. Not that my family respected the opportunities of what I needed to do to play football, but there was just times you had to do things. And so I think I was pretty regimented with my time before I got to college, and that helped for sure. Now, the older I got, the less locked in I became. So I started high, but I kind of slid in home as the years went on.
But you ended up going to grad school, right?
I did, but years later.
Okay,
So
gotcha.
I was a pre-med major my first year. Then they went to computer science, which nobody knew what computer science was in 1990. We didn't even have the internet yet. And that was going to be my major. And then I ended up in finance and business. And then I went back and got a master's in curriculum instruction. And then I got a master's in educational administration.
And where did you want to go with the finance degree?
That's a great question. I didn't know. Sitting down and talk to my counselor, he's like, this will always come in handy, your personal life and everything else. You can use this wherever, whatever you do. And I was like, yeah, sounds good. So it has worked. It helps my work right now. I'm in charge of a budget and responsible for those kind of things. But I really didn't have a clue what I was going to do with it. When I came out of college, I worked in the business world a little bit, did a little bit of the investments and the insurance and those kind of things, but it didn't really hook. I wasn't that interested in it.
I went down the computer science route too.
Oh,
This is
did you really?
92, 93, and after you get two D's, after you spend a lot of time trying to learn programming, I'm like, man, I don't think this is the right path for me. I still learned a lot and I still use it today, but I was like, that's telling me something that I better pick a new major. So that's part of why I got in the hole too, was two computer science classes.
That's cool though. I
Interesting though.
My senior year, my first semester, because I graduated, yeah, it was the first time we registered online. If I'm dating myself here, that's crazy to think. Now I do everything online.
I remember the first class, it was like, you need to email this code to your instructor. And I'm like, what? What do you mean email? That was not even the thing like easy to do. You had to type in a certain code to send it out. Like now it's pretty simple to do email, but it was like, if I don't know how to even get my assignment to my teacher, I am really in trouble here. How did everyone else know all this stuff? Geez, I guess you have to be like, go to school for that purpose and probably have a lot more background on it. But that
Right.
was like, oh, I'm in big trouble.
You had the personality though, like sitting in the dark room, not talking to anybody on your computer, probably. That would have worked. You were close to getting there.
I don't have to talk to anyone.
You're like, oh, this is great. By myself? No one's around. This is awesome. I don't have roommates screaming at me to come out and talk to us.
Actually, that was one problem with it too, was they closed the computer lab and I didn't have a computer. So I used the computer lab, but they close at 9. So by the time we get done eating at the training table and then go over there, I've got an hour to get my assignment figured out. And if like time's up, I can't
Yeah.
go back somewhere and continue my assignment. I'm like, I guess I got to turn this in. So then I was like, yeah, this is just all kinds of things pointing in the wrong direction.
With your computer science degree, Brian, where would you think you were going with that? Do you have any idea of what it was? Or this is a
No,
new
I
thing, you
just
want to check
had
it
like
out
a
or what?
computer at home, like a Commodore, and I messed around and made a couple of little programs with basic logic. And so I was just like, oh, maybe I'll do that. Same thing you had. Pick a major. I don't know. I'm just here because I know I need a degree. And I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to study and do I have to pick right now? So yeah, I didn't really know. Even when I got my statistics degree, I'm still was like, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this, but it's a degree, so something.
Right.
I wish they had a better system. Maybe they do now. I don't know, Mike, if you have that insight. How do they help kids pick? And maybe there's more available online you can research, but I just felt blind personally going into it. And you have an advisor and they're trying to give you recommendations based on how you scored on certain things, but it felt like just rolling the dice or shot in the dark. Yeah, it's a little frustrating, I guess, looking back.
Yeah. Right now, there's a ton of things out there that kids can look at. I work in a building where eighth graders and ninth graders are, and even at the seventh grade level, we start having the kids take interest surveys, figuring out what they are interested in. Then it matches to maybe occupations they're interested in. If they want to get in that occupation, where do you go to get that education that would take you down that path? But the hardest thing is like what you guys were talking about. What do you know when you're 12, 13, 14 years old? You don't know what you want to do. A kid looks at a list and says, okay, tell me what pays the most. In our building, we have 600 actuaries. These kids think they're going to go out and do because it's got the biggest salary. So it's just kind of interesting to see kids at that age talk about those things and they're worried about the salary and not necessarily what their enjoyment is. But yeah, we've got tools to help them, but you also got to match it with maturity. And some kids are ready for it and some aren't.
Yeah, I probably didn't engage with my guidance counselor like I needed to. Shit, we're still doing the same thing, right? Just looking to see what pays the most and go towards that thing. So guess you shouldn't expect these 15-year-old kids to do it or
Yeah, what are we going to do when we grow up? Yeah.
35 years
Right.
later. Right? So that's awesome. Let's dive back into the football part. Talk to us about some of your on-field memories, good and bad, I guess, if you want to walk through some of those.
One of the things that we always talk about are the streaks that we had when we were there. We hadn't lost Iowa State in 15 years, something like that. I'd never lost Iowa State. Northwestern, we'd rolled over them. Wisconsin, we'd always beat them when I was there. So that was the cool thing is of never losing to those guys and keeping those streaks alive, even in tough games. I think we had a block of field goal to beat Wisconsin, maybe my senior year. And then Mike Saunders scored a touchdown up there. Camp Randall beat them 10-7 or something like that. So great games, but it was just like we don't just beat you, we beat you every year. And that was the cool thing of being part of the Iowa program. We're going to come in and you just can't beat us, doesn't matter what you do. When I think of that, the streaks that we were able to put together and beat people consistently over time.
Yeah, it's probably amazing that you look at how that's shifted. Wisconsin was terrible. Northwestern was terrible. Iowa State was terrible. And now they're pretty good programs consistently. And so a lot has changed.
Yeah, for sure. It's crazy. And Purdue's been up and down. It's
Right.
just they've had some great years and then some years that aren't. And just kind of ebb and flow college football. For some programs have stayed on top of things over time.
And to the credit to those teams that weren't maybe that gifted, they really played hard too. You weren't walking into any of those places and expecting to punch your ticket and be out of there. You had to fight tooth and nail most of the time to get that done.
Yeah. And you're talking about even games I remember. We were at Iowa State and we were beating them pretty handily. I don't know, it was 20-something to nothing, a half. And then we turn around and have to get a fumble at the end of the game just to preserve the win. Our offense stalled the second half and then they started running with it and it was crazy. Yeah, they were coach teams, had some talent. And a lot of times they were looking at a way they wanted to be the first ones to beat us. So it made it competitive.
One of my memories of you, and correct me if I'm wrong, you played with both your hands taped up. Is that true?
Yeah.
Probably bring that up every time I see you, but I just have this thing ingrained in my head of you running around with two clubs in your hands. So I'm like,
And here's my fear. I can't remember. I'm getting old, but I'm like, that was 30 years ago. I hope I never asked him to tie up my shoes for me. So hopefully I never asked you to do that, Nick.
I didn't think about the logistical part of it. I was thinking more of just like playing the game with this. I'm like, this guy is one tough motherfucker. He's like got both broken hands or whatever you had. And you're still out there. And I was like, good God, I'm glad I don't have to go against him. Maybe this is the right thing for me to be punting and not trying to bang heads with people.
It had been my junior year. I went through some injuries. I had fractured my thumb, and then they had to go and put a screw in it earlier in the week, and I was able to play that weekend. They were able to tape me up, and then I compound dislocated a finger, so I went to tip the ball away, and it hit the end of my finger, and the bones came out the front side of it, and they cleaned it up and put it back into place in the surgery room, and I was able to practice a couple days later and playing the game. So I looked like Frankenstein, but it wasn't near as bad as it sounded. It just looked bad. But game day or practice was interesting. If I had to go to the bathroom, forget about it. I was just going in my pants. That's the only choice I had.
Yeah, I started to think about that when you were saying your shoe tied. I was like, oh God, taking a piss. This is gonna be bad. Do you think Looking back in the situations, and when you have a son who plays now, correct?
Yeah.
That sort of mindset, should we be encouraging that? Should we be discouraging it? Maybe this is a deep question, but how do we think about self-preservation versus giving everything for the team? Should we be doing that? Should we not? I don't know. Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
That's an interesting question because I spent some time thinking about it, either as a dad, former player, or as an educator. What is the right thing? And I think the answer changes who's in the seat. So if it's me and I can control it, yeah, I'm going to give up whatever I got to give up to help the team do what I need to do. To me, that's not a big deal. That's my choice. It's easy. But on the flip side of that, you've got that little son, that little daughter that are watching you do some of those things. And then they start making those kind of same decisions. And you're like, whoa, are you sure you should be doing those kind of things? When you know damn well you did it yourself when you were younger. So that's a great question. I see some kids even in education and what they do so they can be a part of what they want to do. And sometimes you want to sit down with them and talk to them and say, hey, you sure you're not going to burn yourself out? Are you doing okay? But they got that passion, they want to do it. So that's an interesting question. I do spend time thinking about that from the three different perspectives as a dad, educator, or somebody who was involved in it. I don't know the right answer.
Ryan, what do you think?
Did everyone know what were the trade-offs, right? So what is the downside of playing injured to not have that surgery and be able to play 2 more games? If everyone understood all the trade-offs and then they can make that call and say, yeah, I know that this could give me a limp the rest of my life if I keep playing on this. Is that well known? And so we can make an educated decision. It feels like there's more knowledge around that these days, but I don't know if everyone knew what the trade-offs were fully. If we can communicate that and let them have that choice, knowing fully, here's the downsides of doing this. Even just the Iowa quarterback, right? He hurts himself. This is his senior year. Maybe it's a season-ending injury, or maybe it's something he could just walk it off or get over it. But there's a lot of trade-offs there. Like you might not be able to play if he re-injured again or not. So as long as people are trying to be fair and honest about what the trade-offs are, educated choice, but I didn't feel like there was a whole lot of knowledge around some of that stuff. It's getting better, I think.
Sure. And I think it was part of it. It was just part of the game. It's kind of, in my perspective, it's what I chose. So I knew there was going to be some dangers. And I didn't play at the level that a lot of guys played at, but I still walked away with, I think I've had some things cleaned up lately, but I'm around 11 surgeries right now. Just nothing major, but just clean this up. That's clicking, that's locking. Why don't we clean that up? And before you know it, you've lost all the cartilage you used to have. And it takes you a while to warm up when you get up. And it is what it is. But I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if we knew that, but I don't know. I think I knew I was willing to risk it, maybe. I don't know. Not sure.
I think there's an expectation, fans wise, coaching wise, other players wise, like that ultimate team thing, right? It's like, how do I help the team and what do I do? And I don't want to come out and those things. But yeah, it's interesting when you talk to other guys who hurt themselves and they're like, okay, yeah, I didn't even think of coming out. It's just like this kind of thing where it's ingrained in it. And yeah, I guess it's different when we're older and we're looking back at it with, like you said, parent eyes and some of those things. Is this the right way or not? But yeah, interesting thought.
Yeah. And those guys that went on and played years in higher leagues, whether it be arena or the NFL, I know the beatings they took and some of the things they went through. So I can only imagine.
I think that there's also being able to overcome that. It's so powerful too, to be like, you fought through it, right? And you stuck it out and you overcame, and eventually things got better and healed up. You're dealing with this mental challenge and physical challenge at the same time. And you come out of that. That's such a strength that you take on for the rest of your life. I've dealt with this way worse than anything you're going to throw at me here. I just know when I went into corporate world, it's like, this is easy. Like, this is nothing compared to what we've had to go through.
Are you yelling at me? Oh yeah, no big
yeah,
deal.
like
I've been yelled at national TV. That's no problem.
I just remember my first employer was like, you don't seem nervous. I'm like, yeah, there's 10 people in the room. This is nothing. I don't have home fans booing me. That's
you can't boo
more
me?
pressure. Yeah. You can overcome some of those things of sticking it out and fighting through it and stuff. And it's emboldening and it builds confidence. And the trade-offs are really difficult when there's a lot of upside to being able to say, this is not a difficult thing I can overcome. And I think that persistence and drive is what makes us last through 4 or 5 years of football and on to success in life, you've overcome those things. So you don't get slowed down by little stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I would agree. That's definitely brings a mindset to the workplace or what you do as a profession that so far every boss I've had, evidently I've done it right. I've still got a job. So they appreciate that, I think.
I'm always curious too, and maybe Mike, you can help with this answer. Like the games are easier to get motivated for, right? Games are fun and games are exciting and one every week. So you can get amped up for one of those. But doing the day-to-day stuff, I guess there is a little bit of time off for practices and some of the walkthroughs and that stuff. But that day-to-day grind of just beating on each other and scout teams and those things, how do you keep that mental edge to just be like, okay, it's Tuesday, we're banging heads, it's the third year we've done this, or some of these guys have played for 15 years. It's like, how are they still, what's that mechanism that gets them to be like, all right, okay, I got to go out and pound my head into this guy for a while, and then we'll go back and then go on and go to school or whatever. So do you have any thoughts on that part of how you kept that motivation to go to practice and under physical strain? You're beat up, you're dinged up late in the season, like all that stuff. How do you figure that out?
I can't speak for other guys that I had the opportunity to play with, but I think from my perspective, I always consider myself not as talented as those around me. I couldn't control that, and that's okay. I was pretty short. Wasn't the strongest guy for sure, wasn't the fastest guy, but the thing I can control is I'm going to show up every day and you're not going to tell me no, and we're going to get this done, and I'm going to be really good at it. So I think that constant pursuit of being really good at what I wanted to do, and I can control that. I think that's what kept me focused in at times because I just wanted to get good at what I did. And I didn't want to be that weak link in the chain that let everybody else down, but I also wanted to be a piece of that chain too. Just thinking back, I just didn't want to be the guy that wasn't good enough. And I wanted to be a part of that. And how am I going to improve to get there? And I still think about things like that in my job today. I'm not as smart as some of the people around me, but they can outwork me. So I can control that. So hope my boss doesn't hear this. he thinks I know what I'm doing.
I think the older I get, the more I realize no one really knows what they're doing. So, wow, I don't have a clue. I don't think anyone else does either. That's funny.
All right, team, listen up. There's a national blood shortage. Big Ten schools, how do we get students, fans, alumni to donate? Hit me. Give them merch. Not quite like that. Who can beat it? Chance of the President's Suite? Classy. Campus concert. Keep the ideas coming, team. Don't let your school get one up. Save lives and help win your school $1 million. Hey, whose hand is that?
Hi, I'm Hayden Ork, and I was the kid captain for the Ohio State game.
Hayden's story takes us back to 2016. She was diagnosed with ALL, which is a kind of leukemia. Hayden needed transfusions, platelets during her stay here at the university. 2.5 years wreaked havoc on her blood and on her body.
The blood donations is important because we're having college kids that could be doing so many other things with the college life, giving blood to random people they probably will never see or hear from again in their lives. But while doing that, they're doing so much good in people's lives, and I am a true form of what blood donations can do for someone.
I got some questions about football. So 1990s, your first year playing, you get in maybe some injuries and stuff, and you end up in the Rose Bowl. Tell us about that experience. Anything stand out from that year?
Yeah, the thing that really got that year rolling is we went up to Michigan and beat them up there, 24-23, I believe. I played, I'm not sure, I may have played some special teams, maybe punt return. I was on special teams in the 90s, didn't play a lot. John Derby and Melvin Foster were our two linebackers when we ran that 52 front. But that kind of got the ball rolling. And then you start picking off people as we go. Beat Ohio State at Ohio State. And then we end up in the Rose Bowl. And if you're from Iowa and you always wanted to be a Hawkeye, that Rose Bowl was such a cool deal. And it was just awesome. We actually had the chance to go out to the Rose Bowl. We had snow that year and collapsed. I think we were out in California for 2 weeks. And Coach Fry swore he'd never do that again because it's hard to keep focus out in California. It was just something different. I'd never really spent a whole lot of time out there, but it was a great experience. The game started out slow for us, but we made a game of it at the end a little bit and it had a furious comeback. It just wasn't enough, but it was just something I always wanted to do. And then you get that Rose Bowl ring, that Rose Bowl watch. It's a pretty cool thing to have, something you always wanted to have around.
And then what about 91 season? That would be in your sophomore year.
Yep, it had been my sophomore. We ended up at the Holiday Bowl and at BYU. Again, that year we got on a roll. Was the only game we lost was Michigan, I think.
Yeah.
And I think maybe Desmond Howard would have been on that team if I remember right. That was a while ago. But yeah, we got on a roll and that was just a great year. We had the seniors that year did an awesome job. They were just fun to play with and be around. And it came together for us and then ended up BYU, obviously, but tying them. But that year was just a blur because I think that's when like the Boom Time Boys defense, they had the t-shirts made up. I don't know if you guys remember those. The defensive guys would come up and hit. So it's called the Boom Time Boys, Derby and Brian Wise and some of those guys. That's just the nickname they went by. And it was fun. We had guys that were flying all over the place on defense.
You know what's behind the name or no?
Honestly, they just made t-shirts about our defense. Now, this was before t-shirts were what they are today. I'm from Iowa F City or whatever. Those t-shirts that you go now to the game. But I don't know, it's just the Boom Time Boys. I mean, the one thing that coaches would say about Coach Fry's team and Coach Brazier's defense is it doesn't matter who shows up, they're going to hit you. So you guys better be ready for the physicality. And then everything else after that will take care of itself. But we're going to hit you because we can control that.
And you said Ty Detmer, and then I think you guys played against Cordell Stewart probably too, and that good team in Colorado in '92, right?
Yeah, that would have been in Colorado for sure.
Did you realize with some of those athletes, were they just like a step above everyone else? Could you notice that at that point? Or that was a pretty good Colorado team that you guys played tough the way it looked, from what I remember.
Yeah, we did. I don't know so much about they were physically talented, those guys were, but the thing I remember the most about that group when I was a sophomore and they were seniors, just the leadership. Them being together and they always talked to each other and they were a unified front and said, this is what we're doing as a team. I thought was a really cool thing. And then there was a strong group in behind them that were juniors, the Mike Devlins, the three little pigs on the offensive line, Scott Davis, Beefroni. And so we had a good combination of guys, but they were just the leadership was so solid. And then they were good guys too. And then they were athletes. And when I think of that group, that's what I think of because they ask you to run through a wall. I'd have done it for them because they were awesome guys. And they would never ask you to do something they wouldn't do. And they never ask you to do something that wasn't good for the team. That's what I remember about that crew.
I think we need some throwback t-shirts here. I didn't hear the three little pigs either.
No, I shouldn't have said that. I don't know if we did on the defensive side. We called them the three little pigs.
I think officially they're baby bulls or something.
Yeah, that might have been
public name, but
more political.
Inside the locker room team. The defense called them that. Yeah.
After a couple scrimmages and a couple FUs and whatever else.
It is funny. A few years ago, my son was going through the recruiting process and we ran into Mike Devlin and he was doing some things with the college in between what he was doing in the pros. And we were talking on the phone. He goes, I didn't know whether I should call you or not, Dailey, if you'd still talk to me after what we did to each other in college. I said, man, it was mutual. We're okay.
Speaking of your son, I've seen some really interesting team photos of his. The mustache was spectacular.
Yeah.
Like I did the hair. I had a bunch of different haircuts. So I feel like I did my justice there, but I didn't have the facial hair to do that. That's impressive.
I don't know, long time, we're Tombstone fans. I don't know if you guys have seen Tombstone, the movie. You got Doc Holliday. And I'm not saying that's what he's trying to do, but it definitely doesn't hurt his feelings when people say, hey, are you Doc Holliday?
He's pulling it off. Yeah. I saw that. I was like, oh, wow. This little Tombstone Wyatt Earp style. Yeah. Doc Holliday. I was like, that's impressive. Yeah. It's like a little, I don't know what you'd call it. Yeah. The twist ups on the sides. We'll have to throw a picture in there. It's pretty impressive. I was looking at it. I was like, oh, shit. That's amazing.
Who did you have for coaches when you were there? So you came in '89 and then there was a whole bunch of coaches that left right after that. And then new coaches came in. I was just curious who you came in with, who was recruiting you, and then who you end up with.
My junior in high school, Alvarez was still around, but he'd left by the time my senior, and then he wasn't there when I went to Iowa. But we'd gone to some meetings and he was around or some visits and stuff. But so my first year there, Coach McCarney was the D-line coach. And Coach Brage was the linebacker coach. And Coach Elliott, geez, I was blank. He became the defensive coordinator later, but Coach Elliott was there. So those are the three guys there. Coach Ferentz was our old line coach. So I saw Coach Ferentz as a freshman because I was on scout team defense, and then we went against the number ones a lot. But Coach Ferentz was on the O-line. Coach Carl Jackson was the running backs coach. Coach Patterson, I think, had become the offensive coordinator at that time. And that's all I'm drawing on the guys my first year there. And then we had some guys roll in and out. Coach Ferentz had left, had gone to Maine after my first year. And then we brought in Coach O'Hara, who coached the O-line for 1 year. And then he passed. I think it was actually on a cruise with the coaches.
Mhm.
The guys loved Coach O'Hara. He did an awesome job. Coach Gill came in. I think Coach Mack had left about that time. Was it Wisconsin or Notre Dame?
Wisconsin.
And then, yeah, because Alvarez was there. And then Coach Gill had came in as the D-line coach. And then Verducci had been around. He was coaching some of the O-line. He came in after Coach O'Hara had passed. I think he was assisting at that time too. Definitely some personalities that we had around there. It was fun.
And linebackers.
Coach Brazier was there the whole time.
He was linebackers. Was he D coordinator too at that time, or?
Yeah,
And he did linebackers.
Yep, for sure.
Mike, how many kids do you have?
I got, my son is a junior athlete. He graduated this spring, and then he's got 2 more years to play. He's got this year and next year. So he'll probably be done with his master's in kinesiology when he's done. And then he's at UNI, and my daughter's at Drake playing basketball.
Oh,
Yeah.
very cool.
And through your experience, what kind of guidance have you given them, or what have you passed along you think that's been helpful from your experience?
Stayed out of the way. They're way more level-headed and understand things way better than I did at their age. So it was better that I stayed out of their way. And if they had questions, I try to answer it. But I think my wife, Tracy, she played basketball at University of Mexico, and she's from Jeff City. I think we both understand that people can tell us all they want till they're blue in the face, but we're not going to learn. Sometimes we have to learn the hard way. And we try to have our kids experience that at a young age. And then if mom and dad do say something, maybe, hey, this may be important if they're actually giving me a piece of advice here. I think we've tried to stay out of their way. Our kids are who they are, not because of us, but in spite of us. They're doing awesome things on their own. So we just try to stay out of their way.
Worked so far.
How is it being a dad watching your kids compete? You know what it's like, you know the pressure, you know the ups and downs of it.
I've learned something about myself that some people already knew, but I am a control freak. And when I'm playing or I'm involved or if it's part of my job and I can control it, I'm going to. But when it's your kids and you're not coaching them and you're sitting in the stands and there's nothing you can do about it, man, it's tough. It's hard to swallow. So I sit there and we try to be good fans, the good soldiers, watch and cheer when we're supposed to. Not saying that we don't have those moments where we go to the corner of the stadium or the corner of the arena so people don't see us lose our stuff, but it's hard. You see them, they pour their guts out into it, and you don't always get everything back in return right away. I'm not saying they won't 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. We're talking about work ethic and dumping yourself into work or the team or whatever, and you benefit from that. They're going to benefit from it at some point. Sometimes they don't always get that instant return because I'm their dad. And I know they deserve it. I think they should get that instant gratification, but I think it's going to be good for the long run.
Great. That's great advice. So junior, senior year?
I guess that would have been 93. Anything else, I guess, in general? Any of the games that stand out, or good memories or bad memories, or things that you think back on?
92, that was the year I was banged up a lot. And I would say I felt like I worked out a lot and I did what was asked of me. But I think going through that year really made me commit to the next year, knowing it was going to be my last year. I came in my senior year probably in the best shape I'd been and was able to stay healthy through my senior year, which helped a ton. I started most of the games my junior year, but my senior year didn't because sometimes I had surgery and missed some practice and then would try to come back as quick as I could. But it was good to go through that because then I knew how to prepare myself for that senior year. It was frustrating my junior year. We didn't make a bowl, and that's kind of what everybody hung their hats on back then. I think we finished 5-7. We started the year ranked. We played the kickoff classic against North Carolina State out in the Meadowlands, and we didn't play real well, but it was a close game, and that was just kind of indicative of the season. We played well enough to stay close to people, but we didn't always win the close ones. That was tough for us. But then my senior year, we came in, we started well, and then I think we went on a 4-game losing streak. And then we were able to break that losing streak and snap it. And I think Coach Fry got his 200th win in my senior year, I believe. Yeah, that's one of those proud things. It's something you could bring back to Coach Fry and that he was pretty excited about. And everything he'd done for us at that point, that we were able to give him something back.
Yeah, thinking about that now, like that's probably gone. Those type of wins at one program or it never happen again. Feels like
I don't know. We've been pretty lucky. Coach Ferentz, where he's at right now. You think of the two head coaches we've had at Iowa. Very few people experience things like that. Having the two guys from since 78, now we're in 25. It's crazy. But yeah, with the money that's out there and the opportunities to move on, I don't know if you'll see that type of commitment.
I think there was how many head coaching jobs are already vacant this year. It's like I heard someone rattle off 10 or 12 or something. It's a major programs. They've already decided we're moving on mid-season. It's crazy.
Some in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
The Big 16, whatever we are now. I don't know.
18. Yeah, whatever.
I haven't wrapped my mind around that. It will always be the Pac-12. I don't know. Whatever you do. And Nebraska's always Big 8, but I guess they're in the Big.
You're going to hold out on the conference then? Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Until it comes back to normal.
It'd be interesting to see, and maybe it's already happened. I haven't paid attention close enough, probably. If the styles of football, what it'll meld into, right? Because Pac-10, at least back in the day, was a different style of football, more speed. Big Ten was obviously smash mouth. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what that kind of morphs into. Because I'm assuming the whole conference will have to follow suit once someone has success. I would think that's usually how it works.
Right. Then everybody was copying what the SEC was doing for a long time because they were the conference. And not that they're bad or what, but they're not quite maybe as dominant as we saw a few years ago. And we're seeing some other teams really step it up. Ohio State, who in the first national playoff or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I don't know. It is going to be interesting. I think it's good for football because it does cause a quick evolution of it. Who's the next brainchild that's going to come up with that thing that somebody hasn't thought of yet? But I think it's going to lead to copycats really quick too. And with NIL, you can re-gear, change your lineup, change the people you have in the seats, and do that new thing that's become hot. It's interesting. I just hope the players don't become the cog in the wheel and get lost in the shuffle just because of all the money and everything else that's out there.
Yeah, I guess it depends on if there's good football or not, right? I guess the parity to some degree is good. Isn't that what Major League Baseball has had an issue with if they don't have close games? Yeah, there's got to be parity. Got to be close games. Otherwise, people won't partake in it. I think it'd be hard to follow as a fan, just all the shuffle, right? Who are you watching? Who are you paying attention to? It's like these kids are in and out. So there's 15, 20 kids that kind of feel like they migrate every season. It's like, how do you get fan loyalty and those things? I guess we've talked about it before. Maybe it's more just following a kid than following a team, right?
I was just going to say, I think fans are different too. The fan of college football right now may be more like your NFL fan. The guy signs with a different team. You just buy the new jersey. That's what we're doing with the guys that go from one college to the next. I don't know. Is it good? Maybe that's what we do in 2020s.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I don't want it to go that way. I think that's why they don't follow professional football that closely. It's you're following the school, right? And the players come and go eventually, but it's nice to see some consistency there. But obviously, we want them to have the right opportunities. And I think it was a little strict to not really be able to transfer very easily back in the day. But this maybe is a little swinging too far the other way. I like college football because of that. There's traditions and there's a little bit more loyalty, and it's not about the money, but it's moving in that direction, and that starts to feel not just there to enjoy the game as much, but maybe you're just old school.
Yeah. I don't know. I look at your background with the black and gold Kinnick Stadium. When you're talking about the players do come and go over a 5-year period, but you're a fan of the college. It's hard not to walk into Kinnick and see something like that and get chills. And after the first quarter, you wave to the kids in the hospital. There are just some things that never will be replaced, and hope it stays that way.
Yeah, we were there for the Indiana game, and I think for the first time, we were like on the third row, tucked in the corner, but you really understood how imposing it was to play there. It was like, holy cows, this would be a tough place to come into and try to win. People on top of you. It's like a hostile crowd.
Loud. Yeah, we were kind of by the Indiana players, so it's like you envision if we went into this environment as players on a road game or something. I was like, yeah, this is serious intimidation. Like, this is definitely an advantage that you may not realize. When we're players, everyone's cheering for you, but if you're looking at it from the other side, it's a tough place. So I was impressed with Indiana that they hung in there and pulled it out under those circumstances. So I was like, that's a good team. Yeah.
You run into guys over time that you played against, and they come in and, like you were saying, don't realize how close the stands are to the players. If they want to reach out and grab somebody on the sidelines, man, wasn't that hard to if you had the right angle. But I talked to a few guys and they said they've never seen so many beers and whiskey bottles thrown at the opposing team than they did at Kinnick's.
I had someone tell me it smelled like a farm. Like it smelled like pigs. I was like, really? I didn't get that. Maybe just so used to it, but this is a well-known Michigan running back, and he was like, yeah, you guys' place stunk. I was like, okay, well, that's a first. I hadn't heard that complaint, but maybe that was an advantage too. We didn't realize.
The first road trip I ever took, I'd never flown in my life, but we flew down to Miami and played in the Orange Bowl. And it was crazy because we were trying to get out of the tunnel. And so they started booing us and just throwing like hot dogs and stuff at us. So they moved us to the other side. Then it seemed like it was dog food or something they were throwing at us. I just remember standing there going, where in the hell do these people get dog food in the middle of a college football game? Now, whether it's dog food or not, I don't know. But it was the craziest thing. It's like, this was the weirdest thing I've ever been a part of.
It's hard to describe those moments, right? It's like you walk into these opposing stadiums and just the way the crowd acts, the things they say and do, you're just like, it's just a unique situation where you're almost like, is this really real? Are people doing these things right now? Chanting the things they chant, like, yeah, some of those things, yeah, it's crazy. Definitely electric for sure.
I think those road games though are really good bonding experiences though. You get into that environment, it's like we are all in this together. Everyone's against us except for a little section of the Iowa fans. And so yeah, you come out with a nice road win and it's like super exciting just because you're like, yeah, we pulled it off. We stuck together. We didn't fall to the pressures and the noise and all that stuff. So
yeah,
it's always a cool experience.
And to me, that's what made the Swarm pretty cool. We're coming in together, we're leaving together, and we're in this together. So regardless who's outside of this is all we got right here. So pretty cool.
I really enjoyed too when we would go at the road games, we'd go to where the home fans were, our fans were, and like walk up to the stands and do that. I thought that was really cool. So that was some of those moments I really enjoyed. I think I tried to get Trooper Stewart to let me shoot his gun off after a couple wins, but I don't think he was up for that. old school like Wild West, and you're like, he wasn't having it. I had lost my mind, I think.
Did you end up doing anything after you're done playing? So we ended at the Alamo Bowl. Did you have ideas that you wanted to pursue pro football or do NFL pro day workouts? What happened after that?
There's a few things that we did some tryouts. It came clear to me. I remember one scout telling me, he goes, you're built like a safety and run like a nose guard. And at least he was honest with me. Yeah, I appreciated doing that. But the Arena League was just coming around when I finished up. And I really wasn't overly interested in that. I know Larry Blue, Carlos James, some of the guys I played with had great careers doing that. And that just didn't interest me at the time. I ended up doing that in, 2004. I actually played a season down in St. Louis, but I ended up going to Europe and then played 1 year at Stockholm, Sweden in '94 in what was called the Football League of Europe. And then I played 3 years off and on in Frankfurt, Germany, or Rüsselsheim. And then spent 1 year in Milan, Italy, and played. So enjoyed playing football in Europe. It was fun.
Why don't you dig into those experiences?
Yeah,
I played in the World League, but those other leagues would be interesting to hear from.
Nick, tell me if I've lost my mind. Were you in Germany?
I played for one season with Frankfurt.
Did I run into you? It feels like we ran into each other over there.
We might.
But it was like, I don't know if it was in passing, like you were on the way to a game or I was on the way, but I remember saying hey to you, and then that was freaking Nick. And then we talked for a minute and then we were off again. But I think we were in Frankfurt about the same time.
That makes sense. Yeah. Now you say that does ring a bell.
What
yeah,
year
so
were
I was
you
in
there?
Frankfurt.
97, you would have been in
year.
camp. 98, 99.
Yeah, 97, 98.
I was in Stockholm in '94. I was in Italy in '96. On 2000, I was in Germany. So it was right around in there. But it's one of those things, it was like so quick. And then like now I'm like, I think I ran into him at one point. I was going to ask you and hopefully you'd make sure I wasn't losing my mind.
Yeah, I vaguely remember that. And it was so random too. I think it was kind of like you popped in, popped out. I was like, wait, what the fuck's he doing here? Well, it's one of those things, right? You're kind of like, how did this happen? Yeah. So it probably would have been, because it would have been like my third year out. It was like, I was the second go around with the Chiefs. They sent me. So yeah, it probably would have been 2000. Lots of good memory. I forgot about that.
Like I said, sometimes I'm not sure if it's true or not, but it was like holy cow, I just saw him. We used to be like locker mates back in the day, a long time ago. When I finished up, I started hearing from a coach and a gentleman that was in Stockholm, Sweden. And they were looking for a linebacker to bring over and played in what was called the Football League of Europe. So, like the World League, that old league had folded the year before. And the FLE was that holdover until kind of the World League came back. And with the FLE, you could only have so many Americans on the field at once. And I think there's three of us that could be on the field at once. And you had a big A on the back of your helmet. So nothing like a target that says, hey, hit me, cheat shot me, because they're not going to call anything.
Scarlet letter.
Just go ahead and whale me. But enjoyed it. Enjoyed the culture. Loved living over there. Stockholm was a great experience. We had a really good team that year. We ended up winning the championship. We beat the Hamburg Blue Devils in Hamburg and ended up winning it. But just the opportunity to play. We played in England, played in Germany, Helsinki, Finland. Just kind of had the chance to go all over the place and played teams across Europe. It was fun.
Did they understand football or no? Fans?
No.
I think our World League teams, they were cheering when someone scored, no matter who it was. They were like, yay, something happened. We were like, what the fuck? That was the other team. And then the kickers and punters were like, they loved it because they like equated it with soccer. So it was like a weird like world that I was in. I was like, wait, we're cooler than the quarterback over here? This is awesome.
Or they cheer when it was a great kickoff. It's like, guys, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, just random times during the game and just be like, get excited. So maybe we're doing this wrong. Maybe we should just be cheering for other stuff. Like we were waiting for the big things.
The crazy thing, the team I played in Sweden, we had a handball champion. This guy was like the handball player of the year or something in Sweden. And so he's 6'4", big old tight end guy, and was just an incredible athlete, but didn't always understand everything about football. So it was not comical, but it's like this dude runs like a deer, can jump. But then when he catches the ball, he's carrying it upside down. The points are facing north and south and not east and west. Like, but it's also some awkward things. I think some of the craziest things I saw were like the soccer tackles. They'd get a guy in the open field and a freaking DB just come and slide into a guy and like almost break his legs. Holy cow. But they've been doing that in soccer for years. It's no big deal to them. But it looked like it hurt like hell. But yeah, it was just odd. Just some big old powerlifting type guys that spent their time in the weight room and then thought football was cool and said, hey, I'll give this a shot. And if they got a hold of you, you're in trouble. But if you could get away from them, you're all right. It was interesting. It was fun. Enjoyed it.
And they had like full-time jobs too, right? Where they do this on the side, or were they playing just football professionally?
So the Americans, that was our full-time job. And then some of the Europeans, that's how they made their living. Now others had full-time jobs too. So they're semi-pro. So it was an interesting mix. But definitely the guys that were productive had careers where they'd done well in their country teams. They got a little more money to play football with us. So it was interesting. And the thing I enjoyed, the guys still played it because it was fun. It wasn't odd for us. We'd practice football and then we'd walk down to the bar that was right next to our practice field and hang out and have a good night and get to know each other and do teammate things. So it was fun.
The funny thing with the World League that tripped me out was it's the opposite. We had 98% American guys, and then there'd be like 3 nationals or 4 nationals. So we had the guy that was like the old school kicker, German guy, Ralph Kleiman or something like that, I think. At that point, he seemed like he was 40, but who knows? He was old, a little bit older, probably mid-30s or whatever it was, 30 years old. And in the middle of halftime, he rips a cigarette. Just starts smoking up. I was like, looking over, watching him smoke a cigarette in the middle of halftime. I was like, this is a new one. I haven't seen this one. I didn't think that was on my bingo card, but that was pretty funny.
I had a linebacker I played with. He's from Italy, and he decided he needed an espresso. And so he went into the bar and he's in full pads. Needed to go get an espresso. Yeah, you just never know what you're going to see. It's crazy.
Played a hell of a second half too. Did you live there all year, or is it just seasonal and you came back to Iowa or wherever, or how'd that work?
So when I was in Sweden, I was there from February until October. And then in Italy, I was there February to about the same time. It was close to the same time frame, maybe not quite as long. And then in Germany, it was a little bit shorter. I was on the teams that played within the country, not necessarily the national traveling teams. I would go over about March and would be back July-ish, because at that time I was also coaching football at a couple colleges here. So I'd go over there in the spring, play some football, come back, and then I'd coach at a college when I was here.
You could suit up, be a coach and player. You were all tuned up to challenge the kids, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was great.
Had the cleats at practice.
I was able to take 2 teams to Europe. When I was in Jackson, Mississippi, I coached at a college named Millsaps College. And so we took a group over there and we played in Rüsselsheim. And then we also played in Vienna against the Vienna Vikings. And so it was pretty cool to take the team over there and have a chance to coach against Europeans and organize that trip for kids. Impacted because some of those kids, it was the first time they'd ever been out of the country, and it was pretty cool. And then when I was in Fulton, Missouri, we were at Westminster College. Same thing. Had the chance to take a group to Rüsselsheim, Germany, and play over there. So it was fun. It was fun to give those kids that experience. Now, looking back on it, I wonder what the hell I was doing taking 20-year-olds to Europe, but nobody got arrested that I know of, and they all made it back.
Plus the drinking age is 16 or whatever, right? Yeah.
There was an old lineman at one of the colleges. I'm not going to say anything else because he knows who he is. But as soon as we hit national waters, he stood up on the plane. Hey, Dailey, and he down right there in front of the plane. We're proud of you, bud. Nice job.
Love it. Nice. So then after Europe and football, what happened then?
The funny thing is I worked in Mississippi for 4 years, head coach down there, and a guy had left that I knew a little bit. He came up to Westminster College in Missouri and became the head men's basketball coach. It was the summer of 2000. I was over in Germany, had broken my leg, had just had surgery, had a pin, some plates put in. Kind of had decided this may be it. And he gives me a call and says, hey, I got a job for you. And by the way, I'm going to introduce you to your wife. I said, you're crazy. And so we ended up going back and forth. I interviewed with the coach on the phone. I ended up flying back and took the defensive coordinator job at Westminster College. And then 4 days later, I moved in with my wife.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're like, I stand corrected. That's impressive.
It was a crazy thing, but yeah. I ended up meeting her and we got married within a year.
Looks like it worked out then.
She hasn't left yet, so we're doing all right.
What was your coaching philosophy? How would you describe the way you coached?
That's an interesting question. I'd say I pulled things from all the coaches that I had the opportunity to work with. It was nice to hear it from other coaches when they say, hey, when we're getting ready to play your teams, we can expect this and this. We were pretty fundamentally sound. We didn't hurt ourselves. We were going to be able to tackle, and we're going to cause turnovers, and we're going to knock your ass off. We're going to come at you, and we're going to get physical with you. And if you don't like it, that's your problem, not ours. And everything after that, scheme-wise, I'd steal ideas and concepts from the different places because the game evolved. You think about Iowa when I was playing, we're in the 5-2 defense. It's smash mouth. We're going to find out who the better man is. And then we evolve into the game. The ball's being thrown all over the place. We get empties. We have the more motion movement sets. And then we went to more of a 3-4 and a 4-3 type scheme. I stole some concepts from all those people and was kind of able to mesh some things together and enjoyed what we did. But there was the mentality and what we were going to do as a team, and then there was the schematics that we did. But I enjoyed that part.
I'm curious specifically, you go back to the coaches and taking stuff from different people. With Coach Brazier, at that point in his career, he had done it a long time. What were the things that stood out that he taught you or you learned from that experience?
The one thing is that Coach Brazier, every year, he treated us like we never played linebacker before. This is your step. This is the next step. This is where you put your hands. This is hand placement. This is what it needs to look like. And we're going to practice that every day during 2-a-days. Yeah, back when 2-a-days were still a thing. And we're going to do that twice a day. And then even when we get into the season, we're going to spend 10 minutes on the fundamentals. So I think it was the fundamentals, number one, of what you do before contact happens, what reads you go through, where your hands go in placement, where your feet go in placement when you make contact. And then when you get off that block, how do you make the tackle? What's that look like? So there was no doubt any time of what was expected of us and what we were supposed to do. It was just a muscle reaction. And thinking of Coach Brazier, that's what I took from him because it drove me crazy as a player. So, Jesus, Coach, we got to get off blocks again. We just did this freaking 6 hours ago. But we did it every day. And when it came game time, I didn't have to think about it because we knew what we were supposed to do. And then every year, like 5 years in a row, it's like, all right, guys, you never played linebacker. I want your outside foot back. I want the front side foot half foot forward. You're going to take this step forward. It's good, Lord. But looking back, that was really cool because that's sometimes what you have to do in the working world. Get back to the basics, make sure you do that right before you get exotic with everything else you do.
I always thought, yeah, he wasn't like a big yeller. It wasn't like a rah-rah motivational guy, was he? From what I remember, he seemed soft-spoken, but maybe I'm not remembering right. But how would you describe him as a coach?
He was the level-headed guy, but Coach Brazier was competitive as hell. The guy was pretty good at what he did when he played in college. I think he played at North Texas State, actually, I think. But he was competitive on game day, but he wasn't a yeller and a screamer. Unfortunately, I think between Faley, myself, and Hilliard, we damn near drove him out of coaching early. He survived us, but he had that Texas draw, and he'd basically say, Dailey and Faley, you're going to freaking kill me. And we didn't. Thank God we didn't do it. But I think we presented challenges to him at times. But he was, I would say, Coach Brazier expected a lot out of us. And sometimes I didn't understand that, but he was the kind of guy when it's kind of like that dad relationship when I look back 10 years after playing for him. I'm like, that guy was a hell of a guy. And I wish I'd have realized it when I was there. It was really cool having the opportunity to play for him.
What would you have done differently, or what would have changed?
I don't know. Every
Just the
teenage
realization, just like the kind of
yeah,
the knowledge of it.
appreciation.
Yeah.
The appreciation of it. Regardless of whoever you are, if you're a coach, if you're a principal, if you're a teacher, kids are going to make fun of you behind your back. So we all did our best Coach Brazier invitations on a Friday or Saturday night, whatever it may be. But yeah, just a little more respect because the guy, he didn't deserve a hard time. We had fun giving him a hard time, even though he wasn't there to defend himself. But just the realization of how good he was and how good we had it. Because we didn't know that until you get out in the real world and you watch what's going on in other programs and you see what other coaches are doing. It's like he was a good man. And so was Coach Fry, just how they carried themselves and how they treated us.
I feel like those Texas coaches didn't really yell. They just had that whine of "come on," that sort of deal.
Yeah,
It's funny to think about that. That's a lot to think about to try to have that sort of clarity at that moment to do that. There's a lot thrown at you at that point, right? It's like you got a lot of things going on, a lot of outside noise, a lot of inside stuff that you got to focus on. So I think that'd have been a tough call to really in the moment be super hyper aware.
But I also think we're talking about the group that was seniors when I was a sophomore, like the John Derbies, some of those guys. That's what they had, though. They had the ability to be aware of the situation they were in and appreciate it. I don't think I ever did until later. And that's tough.
Thanks for being open with us on that. It's interesting looking back. We've picked guys that are many years out. So it's a different mind frame to go back and kind of replay what happened and what you did, what you thought, like all that stuff.
Yeah. And the teammates that you had, I had the chance to play with Brett Bielema and some of the guys, and what they all brought to the table and their personalities. And it's just funny.
Kind of amazing we all made it through too at some point when you put that collection of guys together and you're like, okay, here we're going to keep you in a tight group. You're going to live together. You're going to spend pretty much 24 hours a day together. And I guess it's exist as teammates, competitive environment, a pressure-filled environment, and then having the social aspects and some of those things that were around. So it's a lot.
Yeah, it's crazy.
How'd you get into your current role? How long you been at Southeast Polk? That transition from coaching and into administration?
Yeah, my wife and I were both coaching college athletics. I was a D coordinator and she was the head women's basketball coach. And we had our son, and I'd hold him and she'd call recruits, and then we'd flip flop. And we finally looked at each other and go, this is not what we had in mind when it came to adulthood and parenthood. So I ended up taking a coaching job and a PE job back in Fairfield, Iowa. And had some great people help me along the way, but we came back to Fairfield and had been teaching and coaching there. And my superintendent asked me if I'd ever thought about being a principal. I said, not no, but hell no. I'm not interested in that. That doesn't even sound like fun. But then he was talking about impacted lives. And that's why we got into coaching. I enjoyed coaching because what you can do, the perspective you can give people. And 2 weeks later, I went back to him saying, maybe that doesn't sound like such a bad deal. And before I knew it, I became the principal of the middle school at Fairfield, Iowa. I was there for 3 years. And then I've been at Southeast Polk. This is my 15th year at the junior high level. Don't ask me why, but every day it's always interesting to go to work to deal with 13 and 15-year-olds.
Wow.
We have 1,140 of them in the building.
Wow.
It's incredible. That's a challenge.
The noise alone, I think, would get me, right? Like that many kids at one time together.
I've been doing lunch duty for 15 years. I'm just happy I can still hear you guys today. It is funny because sometimes I'll run into people I've known from college and I'll tell them that I'm a principal, and they said, they let you around little kids? Yeah, they do now. We got that legal thing all cleared up. We're good to go.
I'm I'm sure you've been a great impact on a lot of kids. That's awesome to see you in that role and that kind of mentoring.
It's fun. We hope you make an impact. And I know some kids that tell you they hate you right now, but hopefully 10 years they look back and say, that fat bald man wasn't wrong. He gave me some good advice. So if they do that, I win in the long run.
You're just big boned, Mike. You're just big boned. Okay. Nice. I think that's a good
Cool.
place to wrap it up.
Awesome.
Mike, thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed
Great
hearing your
catching
story
up.
and reconnecting again. Good luck with Jackson. We'll keep an eye out.
Sounds
And your
good.
daughter as well. Yeah, for sure.
We'll do. I appreciate it, guys. Good talking to you.
Yeah. Good seeing you last year at the bowl, and maybe see you at another game.
Yeah, you never know.
All right. Sounds good.
Thanks, Mike.
We'll
Take
see
care.
you.
Thanks.